Big Game Hunter is a mix of hunter training, skilling boss fights, and unique rewards. It's definitely the least boring way to train an otherwise pretty boring and repetitive skill, but it can be hard to get into if you're not used to it, and a lot of players struggle to do it well. So let's make it easy and take a look at why you should do Big Game Hunter and everything you need to know about it from the ground up. Good day, everybody. I want to mention right away that this video is time-stamped because there is a lot to cover. If you're totally new to Big Game Hunter, I suggest you watch this whole video all the way through. If you're familiar but just having a hard time with it or need help getting more kills per hour, skip around as you need to the parts that interest you. I want to mention also the rewards that you can get from this activity straight away, and why you should do it in the first place. The primary benefit is good lumps of hunter experience, as well as some slayer experience per hunt. Not the best hunter experience in the game, but it is less boring, like I mentioned, than other hunting methods. As far as reward items, you can only get certain Anachronia upgrade items from Big Game Hunter, like totem pieces and the reinforced dinosaur pelt. The Dragon Mattock is only available as a drop from Big Game Hunter as well, which always goes for a good price, and which you should be getting at least 2 of if you're playing on an iron account for archaeology. Otherwise, per hunt you're rewarded lots of dinosaur bones, damaged hides, which are good alkables, and as well as dinosaur scales and occasionally perfect dinosaur hides, both of which are used for crafting dinosaur hide ranged armor, or just selling for a chunk of cash. The rest of the drop table includes things like various dragon hides, rare Anachronia seeds like Arbuck, Stink Shroom, and Tomb Shroom seeds that you can only get from this activity or from Slayer dinosaurs. The last notable drops are the Pterosaur Maul pieces from the Tier 3 dinosaurs that you can hunt. These each have a 1 in 1,000 drop rate, and each of the 3 Tier 3 dinos drop a different specific piece. Okay, so what is Big Game Hunter actually? Let's start there. Here's a speed rundown of how you do it. Number 1, start the encounter. Number 2, the big dinosaur appears. And next you gather resources to make traps you need to take down the dinosaur. This involves chopping trees for logs and chopping these plants for vines. You'll use some of the logs to fletch spears, and you'll take your spears and go to the various frogs in the area and coat the spears with frog poison. Now you build the 3 giant ballista traps in the area, called scorpions, I think, using your logs and vines to do that. You arm each one with a poison spear. Also, you'll repair the bait pad in the middle, and then when everything else is ready, you place the appropriate raw bait on the pad. At this point, the dinosaur goes to eat the bait in a skippable cutscene. Now, this is the part where you need to pay attention. Each frog's poison in an encounter does a different amount of damage to the dinosaurs. It's very unlikely the dinosaur will die after the first set of traps are fired. In fact, the only way it can happen is if you only use the poison from one type of frog, and it happens to be the one that deals 30,000 damage, instead of the other possibilities, which are 15 or 7,500 damage. So you need to rearm the scorpions with poison spears after the first go, and you'll notice that one of them, as well as the bait pad, is destroyed. So repair the bait pad, set down the bait after you've armed another trap or 2, and you should be able to get your kill for sure after the second attempt. Now you can skin the dinosaur for rewards and the big experience drop of Hunter and Slayer experience. This takes a few seconds, and afterwards you can return to the bait box and trigger another encounter. That's all. Sounds easy enough? Well, it's not, because what I haven't mentioned yet is that the dinosaurs have this area of vision, the colorful ring that you see around them. If you stay too close to the dinosaur for too long in its vision range, the ring will change color until it becomes dark red, at which point the dinosaur catches you. It will roar, and your character will run away to change their underwear. Because of this, Big Game Hunter can actually be a very frustrating minigame to get the hang of. There's not much worse than being 5 minutes into a hunt and nearly having it, but you get greedy and get caught. By the way, I didn't plan on having a video example recorded of that, but there you go. It's even worse with double and triple encounters, which happen very rarely and are substantially more difficult because you'll need to dodge the vision range of multiple dinosaurs. I have some strategic tips for you that will help you get caught less if you're struggling with that, and for the most efficient way to gather resources and set traps so that you can get the most kills per hour. But first, let's talk about all the boosts you should aim to get for Big Game Hunter specifically that will make this a much better time for you. Firstly, your Anachronia Base Camp Hunter Lodge should be as upgraded as possible. Even if you're starting Big Game Hunter early on with level 75 Hunter, you'll be able to have at least the tier 2 Hunter Lodge at minimum, with a bit of time investment into the Anachronia base camp resource gathering. Get your Anachronia camp and resource gathering going as early as possible, because the camp does take weeks to build up. The tier 1 lodge grants you a 10% chance to get double logs or vines during the hunts. This is even more helpful than it sounds in practice. The tier 2 lodge is even better and gives you an extra 2.4 seconds that you can linger in a dinosaur's field of vision before they catch you. This will save your ass too many times to count. The tier 3 lodge requires level 90 hunter and a reinforced dinosaur pelt to build, and you can only get the pelts from hunting on Anachronia. The drop rate from all big game hunter dinosaurs for the pelt is 1 in 100, so how soon you can upgrade your lodge fully depends on your luck with that. You can also get the reinforced pelt rarely from the Dream of Aya if you have access to that. By the way, it's worth mentioning at this point that the Roar of Osseous that happens, that gives boosts to various Anachronia activities, does apply to big game hunter and boosts the drop rate of all rares by 10% and increases experience that you get by 25%, so very worth doing big game hunter during the Rex Roar. Anyways, the tier 3 lodge removes one of the 3 types of frogs from each encounter, which is very helpful and time-saving in figuring out which poison is best for each encounter. The next huge boost to Big Game Hunter comes from Irwinson's Hunter Mark shop at the Anachronia base camp. It costs 50 Hunter Marks to buy a permanent upgrade, which speeds up your trap building time in Big Game Hunter substantially by 30%. This is huge. This also applies to tipping spears with poison from frogs and really any activity within Big Game Hunter. You can get an easy-ish 25 Hunter Marks by finding part of Irwinson's compass at the shipwreck that you see here, and combining it with the other part of his compass that is a fairly common one-time drop from Big Game Hunting. Using the 2 pieces together to repair it and returning it to Irwinson will grant you the 25 marks. Otherwise, 1 Hunter Mark is earned for each successful big game hunt, with a few more rewarded for double or triple encounters. Hunting other things like butterflies, salamanders, or Jadinkos on Anachronia can also rarely reward you Hunter Marks, and even more rarely give you the reinforced pelt, but it's probably faster just to big game hunt for them, as the marks are guaranteed per hunt. You can also upgrade bait boxes with Anachronia resources, which are found at each hunting site and at the base camp. The upgrades increase the capacity of the box, and the tier 3 upgrade allows you to deposit things straight to bank, which is very helpful for banking large quantities of bones, pelts, and other rewards that you get. Aside from this, there are other abilities and gear that can really help you out during this activity. First is having as many mobility abilities and perks as you can get. This means ideally having double surge, dive or bladed dive, and the mobile invention perk or archaeology relic equivalent. It'll speed things up and save your hunts countless times to be able to move instantly to the next trap to set up or out of a dinosaur's vision range very quickly. Next, any gear that boosts woodcutting success rates and grants extra resources is a great time saver. Things like the Nature's Sentinel woodcutting outfit and your equipped hatchet do affect success rates when chopping vines and logs, as well as the Lumberjack aura. A more expensive but easily attainable option, for non-irons at least, is Sana's Fire Torch, which provides a high chance of chopping double logs and vines. Okay, that's all for recommended perks and gear. Now let's get into how to actually hunt properly. Each dinosaur requires a specific raw bait and has a specific location on Anachronia where it can be hunted. You can reference the wiki page for this to have a better look. You can see it here now quickly. There are 3 tiers of dinosaurs requiring increasing hunter and slayer levels to hunt, and each successful hunt gives high hunter experience and some slayer experience. Throughout the hunts, by the way, you'll also get a bit of woodcutting, fletching, and herblore experience when you chop supplies, fletch spears, and tip spears with poison. Before you start hunting, load up the bait box with the appropriate raw bait. The inventory of all the bait boxes on Anachronia is shared, so you can deposit or withdraw from any of them. To start an encounter, you can right-click the pad next to the bait box at the hunting spot and just hit Quick Start. You'll now find yourself in an instance with the dinosaur. Now for my first piece of strategic advice. Load up on supplies to last you multiple hunts during your first hunt. This will save you a lot of running around time over the course of multiple encounters. So what I suggest is this. Chop an inventory full of wood, for starters. Every encounter area has 2 trees and 2 vine spots you can chop from. Fletch about half of these into spears, and then go chop at least 9 vines. I should mention this works much better if you have the fully upgraded bait box that allows you to bank deposit rewards. Otherwise, your inventory will fill up quickly with rewards that take up a lot of space, and you'll have to top up on wood or vines every 2 hunts or so. Anyway, there are patches of tall grass you can hide in throughout each encounter area as well. Being in this grass will not lower a dinosaur's awareness if they're onto you and still nearby you, but it also won't go up as long as you're in the grass. These are good places to fletch the spears, for example, or just hide. Be advised also that dinosaurs stomp on you if they walk over you. This doesn't do any damage, but it will stun and bind you for a few seconds. So having freedom on a handy hotkey can save you from being caught and booted this way. You'll notice that no gathering spot is completely safe from dinosaurs' vision range. If you have at least the tier 2 hunting lodge, there are a few gathering spots you may be able to get away with just standing there until the dinosaur walks out of range. But you should always be ready to escape quickly because dinosaurs can stop and change direction at any time. When you need to escape a dinosaur's vision range, the best way is to move in the opposite direction the dinosaur is going. If you try to run away in the same direction that the dinosaur is moving, you'll only keep yourself in his vision range longer. Now after you've chopped wood and fletched spears and gathered vines, leave at least 2 inventory spaces open. You'll need these to gather the poison from 2 types of frogs. Get 2 of one color and 1 of another color. It doesn't matter which you pick. The reason you should do it like this is that it'll take you at most 2 rounds of trap setting to hunt down the dinosaur. You only need to see the damage that 2 of the types of frogs deal in order to figure out which color frog deals the max of 30,000 damage each. Now there is one thing here that is very, very important to note. The damage that each color frog deals remains the same for all subsequent encounters. You can only initiate 5 or 6 encounters at one spot before that dinosaur goes into hiding and becomes unavailable for an hour. But for the duration of these hunts, before the dinosaur goes into hiding, the same frog color that deals 30,000 damage in your first hunt will do that much damage for the rest of the hunt. The rest of the following hunts. So you only need to figure out which frog poison deals the 30,000 one time. After that, you can load up your spears with poison from only that frog and hunt each dinosaur with only 1 round of trap setting and baiting, since you'll be able to do the 90,000 damage to it each time and take out all its health. Since the spears stack in your inventory, it's a good idea to run around and load up on all the most damaging frog once you've figured it out. By the way, when you have the tier 3 hunting lodge unlocked, the best frog strategy changes to just picking 1 of the 2 available frogs now and get 3 spears of that. Since one of the 2 frogs available is the one that does 30,000 damage each, you have a 50-50 shot at killing the first dinosaur with 1 round of baiting. And at worst case, you need to switch frogs and go for 2 rounds like usual. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves with advanced frog strategies, first you need to get used to building the traps using 1 wood and 1 vine each, and then arming them with a poison spear. Then you need to fix the bait pad in the middle and apply bait to fire the traps. This is the part that will require the most effort and skill, and that there isn't really a cookie cutter guide for. And there's a lot we could talk about with that here. Generally speaking, it's a good idea to work in a circle in the opposite direction the dinosaur is walking. Running past the dinosaurs as they're on their path will allow you to be planted at a spot so you can build an arm for the most amount of time before you need to move again. You'll need to pay attention to the dinosaurs' movement patterns for a bit because they have different walking patterns. Some are straightforward, where they just walk in a circle around the area, but sometimes they crisscross around and weave through the middle of an area. It's important to know where the dinosaur is going to walk next so you don't get caught off guard when you're in their vision range, and you try to escape in the wrong direction by accident. There are only 2 cases where dinosaurs can suddenly change direction in their pathing. In both cases, you'll see their vision ring disappear briefly, so that's a flag to look for. In the first case, the dinosaur just randomly stands still and roars. This means that it's about to just turn around and walk the other direction, along the same path. The second case is where Jadinkos sprout up in the area randomly. This only happens on tier 2 and tier 3 dinosaurs. The dinosaur you're hunting will stop when this happens, and then walk to the Jadinkos and eat them, or scare them away, or something, and then continue on its path from that point. This one's a bit harder to plan for than the change direction roar. You'll have to pay attention and observe where the Jadinkos are when this happens, and figure out which direction the dinosaur will take after it gets to them when it resumes its walking path. As a general piece of advice, don't get caught up trying to fix 1 trap at a time. The most time-efficient way to do these hunts, I've found, is to stay on a trap until the dinosaur comes and you have to move. Escape it by going to the next trap that the dinosaur last walked by. You'll have the most time to sit here and repair this one until the dinosaur comes around again, at which point you just ditch it and continue to the third trap and start fixing that. If you do this and work in a circle in the opposite direction of the dinosaurs walk, you'll be repairing and arming traps in the fastest and easiest way possible with the least running away. In between this as well, maybe once you're more comfortable with this minigame, you can make stops in the middle too, and chip away at repairing the bait platform as you run between trap setups. The bait platform is trickiest because you need to move very frequently to avoid dinosaurs' vision ranges, since they are very often close enough to the center of the area to see you. Once you've hunted your first dinosaur, you skin it for the rewards and the big experience drops, and go back to the pad by the bait box and choose to start another encounter. If you followed my inventory gathering guidelines during your first hunt, you should have enough supplies already in your inventory for at least 1 or 2 more hunts without having to gather anything else. This will lead to your hunts taking about a minute or maybe even less, which is great. After you hunt 2 or 3 dinosaurs in a row, I suggest making another big gathering run for at least 2 more dinosaurs. Once you've hunted enough of them and they go into hiding, the best plan is, if you want to continue Big Game Hunter, is to move on to the next available hunting spot for you and exhaust it as well. By the time you're able to cycle between at least 3 spots, you should just about be able to go back to the first spot coming off cooldown if you want to power hunt for more than 1 hour at a time. So that about covers it as far as my strategy and guidelines for making your big game hunts more successful, easier, fun. The only thing left to talk about is double and triple encounters, which are a lot less fun. These happen rarely and involve hunting 2 or 3 dinosaurs in the same encounter. Doubles have a 1 in 16 chance of occurring every time you start a hunt, and triples are much more rare at a 1 in 160 chance. These are exponentially more difficult because you will need to run around and avoid all dinosaurs way more than is needed for a single encounter. It also gets exponentially easier as you manage to hunt off dinosaurs in the encounter. A triple encounter turns into a double after the first hunt, and a double becomes the same as a regular one after you hunt a dinosaur in that. The only extra advice I can give for these is to be extremely patient and spend a few minutes observing all the dinosaurs and their walking patterns. There are no special direction-changing events in double and triple encounters like the roar or Jadinkos popping up, but the path of each dinosaur is different than usual for these encounters. Before you set up each and every single trap, and especially before you set up the bait pad, pay close attention to the pattern of when each dinosaur is close to the pad in question, and figure out when you have a window to pop in and set it up before you have to flee again. Also, after one of the dinosaurs is hunted, you'll need to skin it while the others are still roaming around in order to get to the next phase of the multiple encounter. This makes these hunts take much longer than 2 or 3 single encounters together, but the rewards, hunter marks, and rare drop chances actually increase substantially compared to multiple single encounters. This means you should always try to take advantage of double and triple encounters when you get them, and do your best to complete them. Figure out your window for popping in to build each spot, and also figure out a safe spot you can escape to for each one. Ideally, if there's the tall grass close by, that's awesome, but if not, figure out how far you need to go away and where you need to stand to get out of the vision range of all the dinosaurs and let them cool down. Spend little time fixing up each spot and escape quickly. It is annoying and it requires a lot of patience, but getting greedy here is punished very heavily because you'll get booted. Okay, now that's all I have to say about Big Game Hunter. If you have your own tips and tricks not mentioned here, please leave them in the comments. This is actually a very fun minigame and a good way to break the routine of your usual daily scaping when you're not getting irritated that it's a tricky minigame to get into. If you generally enjoyed this guide as well and found it helpful, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more helpful guides and content. I appreciate you very much for watching. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.